Hello. So many of you have asked me to do a little farm tour or garden tour to show you some of the herbs and the things that we grow here on our little homestead. Right here is pretty much where our land begins, and we have about 25 acres. It goes all the way back up there to the ridge, and it goes down the hill, north ways, and up the hill, east ways. This is the main area here that's flat. Most of it's really hilly, steep, and wooded. So we put our house here. This one over here is the first cabin that we built. We built that with materials that a friend gave us when she took her house down, and we lived there for about 2 years while we were building the main house. For part of that time, we had no running water, no electricity, which was kind of fun. At that same time, I was reading Little House on the Prairie to Kaya, and she hated it. I'd never read it when I was a kid, so I didn't know what it was about, and I know so many people who love it. She hated it, and I asked her one time why, and she's like, we live like this. Why would I want to read this book? Because we had no electricity, we had no running water, we were going to the outhouse to go to the bathroom, so she didn't want to read it, which was kind of funny. We have a tool shed next to it, and then we have a little office that we built when I was pregnant with Leaf for my husband. It was for a friend to live in, and now my husband has his office there. So plant-wise, a lot of you wanted to hear about some of the medicinals and some of the plants we have on our property. The first thing we have here is an apricot tree, so we're on the north side of a mountain. That means that the sun doesn't come up till later in the day, and it goes down early, and it stays fairly wet on this side of the mountain. So things get moldy easily. It's not the best place for gardening, but I'm doing everything I can to grow everything I can on this property. And some years we'll get some fabulous apricots out of this little tree. This year it got hit pretty hard by a frost, but we still have some apricots on there, so we'll see. Next to it is our elder patch, and this is a big one that people like to hear about. Elder is a really nice medicinal, if you want to come in to show the flowers a little bit. These are the flowers, and they are getting ready to start blooming. The flowers are used often in medicine for kids. They're really good for helping with fever. People like to make elderflower fritters and elder cordial. And then the berries are wonderful for dyeing, and they're also really good for viruses, especially the flu. So we like having this one on the property. Almost all of this up here is gardened by our landmates. We have a couple that live on the land with us. They're renting out the house that we built first when we moved here. And we have a cherry tree and a persimmon tree, and these two big ones back here are hazelnut, but they have not produced yet. A lot of this stuff is still fairly young. We've only been on the land for 9 years, so some of it's just starting to get into production. Our bees are over this way, and we have wineberries and raspberries. And let's go to the garden over here and I'll show them. So things might look a little bit weedy. Part of that is because I've decided that weeding does not need to be a priority. I can only do so much, so I don't want to weed everything and take all my time doing that when I can be knitting, right? And part of it looks weedy because in the fall I threw in the garden beds. In this bed you can see it even better. I threw in some Austrian winter peas, some crimson clover, and some winter rye, and all three of those help to reestablish the nutrients in the soil. And these beds were all just hard red clay, so it was important to put some things in there to bring the nitrogen back to the soil, to bring the compost back. So I put those in every single garden bed this year, and some of them I'm just letting go. The beds don't have anything in them, or don't have a lot in them, so I'm letting them just do their thing. I have some poppies, I have some fennel. Fennel's a really nice one for digestion. I like growing that for the kids because they'll munch on it, especially when they have a stomach ache. This one right here is a marshmallow plant, and originally the root was used to make marshmallows. And that's another nice one for your digestion. This one here and all back here is called wormwood. And wormwood is one of the plants that was originally used and still used in making absinthe. Let's see. This patch has some nice herbs to know about. This is lemon balm, which is really easy to grow. It's in the mint family though, so it spreads all over the place. It likes to reseed itself through your garden, but it's a really nice one for thyroid conditions. It's a fabulous one to use for any herpes condition. It's nice and cooling, so it's great to make lemon balm tea in the summer. It's another one that's nice for fevers. So I like that one, and it smells great. This is my big comfrey patch, another one that just keeps on spreading. I think I planted 2 when I first put it in. There's a lot now. It's great for the bees, which is good. It's also a really nice wound healer, so it's nice to make salves with and use for scrapes and cuts. People also use it as a compost, where you can use, cut down the bottom leaves and put it in some water with a little bit of yarrow and make kind of a compost tea to put on your garden to nourish it. So that's a nice one. Let's see. Over here, this was my original herb bed. It had a ton of herbs in it, but some of them have just been weeded out. Right now, it's mostly echinacea. All of this back here is echinacea. And in the opening credits, you see that. I take the picture from right here looking at the house, and it's in full bloom. And I planted one, and it reseeded itself. So this bed last year was my indigo bed for the last 2 years. The first year it did fabulously. We got 3 harvests. Last year I barely got 1. And I think some of it had to do with weather, but some of it had to do with moles. For the first time last year we had moles really attacking a lot of things, eating around the roots, and so everything would die. So one of my cats, actually 2 of them, this one and especially Oreo, have been helping to take care of the mole problem. But I also planted in here some things that are a little bit bitter, hoping that would help out. I've got rue, which is one that my great-grandmother used to use, so I like having that one in the garden. That's a nice digestive. It's very bitter. These 2 are called feverfew, which despite their name are actually really good for headaches. This is a delphinium flower for cutting flowers, and then I've got eucalyptus. Eucalyptus won't winter over around here, but it'll grow big enough during the summer that I can get a nice harvest for doing eco-printing with it. Another dye plant that I've got is over here, and that's madder root. This whole bed is full of madder root. You see how it kind of clings to you. This is its 3rd year, so I can harvest it this year, and I'll probably harvest 1/3 of the bed and then replant that part so that every year I've got more that I can harvest and see what kind of nice colors I get out of it. Back here by the ladder, we have a peach tree that grew out of our compost pile. So we let it grow, and it's doing beautifully. We have 2 other peach trees on the property, but I love peach medicine, so I make sure to keep that one. The peach leaves and the peach pit, I learned about most when I was pregnant with Leaf, and ginger made my nausea worse because ginger's warming and it's somewhat stimulating, but peach is very cooling and calming, and so when I took peach, it helped calm down the nausea. And then I learned that it was good for insomnia and helping with sleep. And then I learned that it was really good for insect stings and venomous bites. So whenever I get stung by a bee, I will put that on it immediately, and it cools down the reaction so I don't have that inflammation, because usually everything would get swollen. If I got stung on the thigh, my whole thigh would swell. But if I put peach on it, I'll make a tincture, though you can do just straight leaf or make a tea. It will help to cool things down, which I think is really nice. It's great for kids too because it's so calming and cooling. So if my kids are overstimulated at night, I can give them a little bit of peach tincture or peach tea, and that helps to calm them down to go to sleep. Over here we have our blueberry patch. I've got, I think, 10 or 11 blueberries now, which is really nice, just to have some food coming in. They are probably about a month away. They're greenish right now. And then back here is a vitex bush. The five-lobed leaf, I guess, looks a lot like pot. but it's not. It it's actually used in women's medicine in the regulation of hormones, and it's the seeds. In the late summer, it'll have these really beautiful spikes of purple flowers on it, and the bees and the hummingbirds love it. But the seeds are they look like little peppercorns, and they actually taste kind of peppery, and the seeds are used in the medicine. It's nice to have the plants. I mean, part of the reason why things look so weedy around here is because it's hard to be an herbalist and think that nothing, that anything's a weed. Everything has its purpose. Like here I'll see mugwort, which is a really nice bitter and a great herb for dreams and sleep. There's clover, there's dandelion, there's so many things, even in the grass, that can be used. Sorry, Cookie Dough's biting my husband's toes. So there's always something that I see that I may or may not want to cut down because I know it's medicine. But it's really nice when you find a medicine that's also really beautiful too. Like the vitex just gets gorgeous in the fall, and it's going to become a huge bush. So let's see. Let's take you back out this way. So up on this hill we have the hazelnut and the persimmon. We also have some grapes that have been slow, but they're getting there, and hopefully we'll have a little harvest this year. This one is a hawthorn tree, and hawthorn berries are used in medicine for the heart and the blood. So, the berries you can also make hawthorn jam and hawthorn mead and stuff with, but they're a lovely medicinal. And we have some more nectarines and another peach and some plums. Again, it's hard because of the shade that we have. It's hard for them to do great. They'll produce really well, and then right before harvest they often get moldy, but I keep trying. I want them on the property. These 5 that we have right here are all kind of local wild edibles. There's choke cherry, there's Nankin cherries, bush cherry. They all have great foods, but they also grow really well in this area, and because they grow so big, they're nice for protecting the windows. And then the roof, you can see we have lots of stuff planted on. Most of it is sedum, because it does well in drought conditions and doesn't have big roots to go down into the roof. But some things have seeded themselves up there. We have drooping onion up there. We have a type of carnation up there. We have some lamb's ears. We even have a lavender up there. For the first few years, we had to really water it and weed it to make sure that there wasn't a lot of grasses or trees growing up there, but it's fairly well established now, and it keeps the house really cool in the summer and really warm in the winter. We've got 3 water catchment systems around the house that we had good plans for. We don't really use them very much except to make mud puddles and play in. But it's nice to know that they're here in case we ever need them for watering things, or, if the water doesn't flow well. We have a spring on our property and a pretty deep well, so that helps with water. Some lilacs. Let's see. I've planted some lemongrass. Again, that won't winter over here either, but it will get big enough that I can harvest and use some of it for food. There's a lot of St. John's wort. St. John's wort grows naturally in this area, and like this one was actually given to me last year for Mother's Day, I think. And this is right next to it, and that's our native variety. They're just kind of growing up together. The flowers make a gorgeous dye. You can get pinks and reds and greens and yellows from it, but the flowers are also really good medicine. Medicine for nerve pain, medicine for depression, medicine for sunburn. So I like having that all over the property. Leaf and I wanted to put in a little patio over here We have our big one back by the house, but this one stays shaded more in the summertime, which is nice, so we can play out here a little bit longer. And we thought we'd plant some things in the cracks. So here we actually have 2 tea plants, the Camellia sinensis, the real green or black tea. And we're hoping they'll grow up so that we can harvest some of the leaves and try making our own tea, which would be a lot of fun. And then within the cracks, we've got some strawberries. We have a stevia plant. Leaf likes to munch on the leaves. We've got some chamomile. We've got a sunflower that grew up on its own. I don't know where it came from. Some mints and all kinds of little things in there. And then, let's see, I'll take you over to this garden. One of the things, after years of trying really hard to grow vegetables, to can them and have lots of foods in the winter and everything, and having picky eaters in the house, I realized that it was really more effort than it was worth to try and grow everything on this. I mean, because it's about 6 o'clock and we've already got shade on our gardens, whereas if you're in a southern facing place or have larger open area, your gardens are going to get sun for a lot longer during the day. So things just didn't grow as well as they do in so many other places in this area. And there are so much community supported agriculture and so many farmers in this area that it just didn't make sense for me to spend all my time trying to grow edibles, vegetables, especially when there were others who I could get it from. So this year I decided to grow more flowers. Cookie Dough's not letting me grow the flowers very well. He just decided to plop right in the middle of the anise hyssop. Luckily he's fluffy, so he's not squishing it too much. But I've got lots of flowers planted and some still more medicinals and a few edibles. In this bed I have motherwort. Motherwort's name is Leonoris cardiaca, which means lion-hearted, and that's kind of what she's for. She's used for strength, for mothering yourself. This is what I had after I gave birth to Leaf. I would take it to kind of get my energy back. They say it's for mothering the mother. That's one of the things I've learned specifically in herb school is, moms give a lot to raising their children, and that this is one that's nice to help mother you back. I've got a few calendula, some borage. Borage is a nice one. The blue flowers right here are tasty in salads. They make a nice tea, and borage is also really nice for nursing mothers. Then we've got a couple lupine that I'm hoping will reseed themselves because that makes a nice dye plant. There's a mullein plant right here. They grow all over the place naturally. You'll see them on the sides of the roads. The leaves have been used as a smoke for healing the lungs or getting over cigarette smoking. And then the flowers, it'll be a tall stalk that comes up, and the flowers, yellow flowers all over it, are used for ear infections. People will also let them dry and then dunk them in lard or oil and use them as torches. Let's see. Over on this side of the house, on the southern facing side of the house, we planted our figs. That way they'll stay warmer in the winter and produce, and we can get a lot of fruit off of those. And they'll also have some rosemary. So this was my vegetable garden. It's now becoming more of a flower garden. This is where I've planted my indigo this year, so hopefully that will start coming up soon. Back there, Leaf and I planted a butterfly garden. We have 2 different types of milkweed, the common and the butterfly milkweed. We have lemon verbena, another one that's great for teas. We have natural yarrow that grows naturally all over the property, but this one was just really pretty. The scientific name for yarrow is Achillea millefolium. Millefolium means thousands of leaves or 1,000 leaves because the leaves are so frilly. And then the Achillea, I've heard 2 stories. The first story I heard in herb school came from that when Achilles was born, his mother grabbed him by the ankle and dunked him in a magic solution to help keep him safe, kind of shield him. And that when he was finally killed, he was actually shot in the heel, and that was the one spot she had covered with her fingers, and so that was called Achilles' heel. But I think the real name, Achillea, actually comes from the Iliad. I think it's the Iliad, which has a story of Achilles bathing his soldiers or his warriors in a special solution. to keep them strong. I believe that's where it comes from. But yeah, it's a beautiful herb and it grows all over the place. I also have 3 different types of monarda or bergamot or bee balm. It has lots of names. This one attracts the butterflies like crazy and puts out these really crazy looking flowers, but the flowers are also a really nice medicine. Cold and flu season, if you dunk them in honey or steep them in honey, they make a really tasty honey. Let's see, we've got leaves, more of leaf beds, more poppies, some skullcap, and lots of other herbs. We've got some tomatoes and zucchini. I always put marigold in the garden. I've probably got 6 or 7 of them. They'll grow big and bushy, and it's a fabulous dye plant. And then we have a couple of dahlia beds, which are just starting to get going. Unfortunately, the slugs are munching on some of them, but they will produce big, beautiful flowers that are wonderful for dyeing with. We have some strawberries over here. And then in the back bed over there, I've put some sunflowers, including the Hopi sunflower. And the Hopi sunflower is one of those that produces dark purple seeds and makes a lovely dye material. This section over here, where some of the chickens are roaming, is another part of the orchard. I planted a bunch of what was called dwarf pear and apple trees, and I planted them at the minimum spacing to try and fit more in. It said 8 feet apart, but unfortunately, as you can tell, they are not dwarf plants. They are full size, and so they're not happy being so crowded. So we're doing our best to kind of keep them trimmed back a bit to let the air flow through, but we do get some pears and apples, which is really nice. If you look over this way on the coop, you'll see that I'm growing some plants up the coop. This, and there's a few other on the other side, is hops. The hops that you'd use for brewing beer. Hops is also a really nice medicine, and dye plant. So I like to have that one growing around. It also creates shade for the chickens in the summertime. And we'll just go one more place. So this over here is the rose patch that I was sitting next to in the last episode. It goes from here all the way over to the chicken coop, actually. And I believe they are the Rosa Gallica variety. They just smell so strong and amazing. But I did also plant this one, which is a Rosa rugosa. And this one is one that's typically used for the hips because the hips are so large. And that's the seed, basically. And the medicine, and they're so large that it's really nice to use for medicine. And then one other thing we've got growing around here, actually it's coming up, well here's some mint, wild mint, but it's coming up over here, and over by the coop, is passionflower. This is the passionflower vine. I planted a couple of them next to the coop. Right around here, you can see the old vines growing up. And they spread like crazy. But aside from, again, being cover for the chickens in the summer as it grows up, it also produces a fruit you can eat, which is really tasty. And the leaves are used for medicine. So it's nice to have those on the property. We have the pond and the treehouse over here. And then back over here is part of the area where we move the chicken fencing so they can get some greens. We have a willow tree, which we're using for dyeing and for medicine, and then a large patch of nettles back there. Nettles is jam-packed with nutrition, so it's a really nice spring green to eat. You can use it similarly to as you would spinach, except you don't eat it fresh because it's stinging nettles, so it's going to sting. You have to cook it somehow or process it somehow to take out the sting, but it's also a really nice dye plant. Yeah, there's so many other things on this property. It's hard to go into all of it, but I just wanted to give you a little glimpse of our space. We have back there, you can see a little bit of an open area, and from there branches off some trails to go up towards the ridge. And within the woods are many, many other medicinals that are just wild around here. And maybe one time we'll go on a hike. But for now, I just wanted to show you our space. We can turn around and give a little glimpse of the house. You can see on the roof the patch of irises that are growing up there that I didn't plant. I planted a bergamot up there, and in the pot came up some irises, and they look so beautiful. I may put some more up there someday. But that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too boring, and we'll see you next time for the usual knitting and fiber show.